Hello and welcome to AWS Certified Solution Architect course. In this video, we will discuss other entities of identity and access management. So in last video, we discussed about users and we created one user, Bob, and we created its security key, access key as well. So let me show you the access key. How does it look like? So if you can see here, the access key will be something like this, and the secret key will be this we need to enter while login to AWS through command line mode. So now in this video we will discuss about groups. So groups are nothing but group of users, a list of users who want to have same access, or who want to have same permission. So suppose there is a team in your organization which is which needs development access. So if the team has 10 users, so we can group those 10 users in a particular group, and we can assign the developer policies on that group so that it is easy to manage users in the developer team. So how it will be easy? Like suppose you have a new member to the team, so you don't need to go and create a separate policy and permission for that user. Instead of that, you can just add that user to this group, and he will inherit the same permission as his team members. So now let's create a group here. So for instance, I will give the group name as test group, and suppose this group will be used for providing read-only access to all AWS resources. Then we can search for the managed policy which has read-only access. So there are a lot of policies. So AWS has taken care of most of the policies. In case if we want to create some policies, fine-grained policies, then we can create them as well according to a requirement. So here I will select this read-only access policy, and I'll attach it to this test group. Now let's click on create group. So our group is created, and the group has permission read-only access. So now let's see the what is this policy telling, which kind of read access it is providing. So as you can see, this policy is in JSON code, and it's giving access to describe certificate, get certificate, list certificate, and I think all the services has been included in this policy. So you will have read-only access to all the services of AWS by this policy. Now let's attach some users to this group. So we will attach the user Bob to this policy so that it Bob will inherit this policy and will be able to access all the resources in AWS, but he will be having only read-only permission. So this was about groups. Now the next topic is roles. So what is difference between groups and roles? They are almost same thing. Even roles can be attached to multiple users as well as resources. But how does it differ from groups? So that is the question. So as you can see, in groups we have option to add only users. We can add only user entities. However, in if we create some role, we can attach this role to AWS resources. Now, what are the scenarios in which we may need to attach role to AWS resources? So let's suppose you have one server, and that server, while running a program or some application, needs access to some DB, some database. So instead of creating some user and embedding that user within that server so that it it will invoke that credential to access database every time, we can attach a role to the EC2 instance or server so that it does not need to use any credential. It will just use the particular role and will be able to access the DB resources. So now the role will be having some policy, just like we have given policies and permissions for users and groups. We will assign some policies to even roles. So that will enable the role to execute those commands and tasks for resources as well as users. So this is the benefit of having roles. Apart from that, suppose you have some users who need one-time access to execute some program. So for example, you are the administrator, AWS administrator, and one development guy need to deploy some code in the production environment. So he need some access, some one-time access so that he can deploy that code. So what you will do, you will create a role and assign to that user so that he can switch the role, he can go to that role and execute the command. So once that is done, you can revoke the role access. So in this case, you don't need to create a permanent user ID for that user. So that is the benefit of having role.